Complementary pension funds have been introduced to try to solve a big problem that Italy has. And the problem is pension. So how likely is the pension system to react to the changes in the demographics and the changes in the laws? So remember that Italy used to have a defined benefit scheme, switched to a defined contribution, and the population is aging rapidly. And with a low fertility rate, how are we expected that the new generation will pay my pension, our generation pension, whenever we retire? That's a big problem. So the intergenerational pact doesn't work. It's very simple. There are fewer younger people, fewer people in the workforce, and more people getting retired. So what do? Are they required to pay more? So they pay more towards somebody else's pension, and there are still fewer people that they can pay the pension of the current taxpayers when they will retire. This is a big problem. It's a cash crunch. And if you've been involved in the Italian politics, they always talk about pensions. So what did the government recently introduce? They recently introduced the complementary pension fund tax break, which means that how do you save that? Well, you have to create your own private pension fund. But would that make sense? You already have high social security charges on your income, whether you are employed or you are self-employed. So should I tell people, hey, we're sorry, we don't have any more money, so you should take care of your own pension funds? Of course I'd be mad. Why they get a benefit and I do not? So how will they do that? Well, they created tax breaks. So if you save up to 5,000 euros per tax year, you contribute that into a private pension fund, then you will reduce your taxable income. So this becomes a deductible item against income. So you will have a tax saving based on your marginal tax rate. So the minimum tax saving you can have is 23% plus municipal and regional taxes. So if you put 5,000 euros in the fund, in the next tax return, you get back more than 1,000 euros. But this becomes very effective whenever you are in the top brackets, so from 38% up. So imagine that you put 5,000 euros into the fund and then you save 43%. Saving 43% means that you buy 5,000 euros with 3,700 euros. It sounds great. It's wonderful. However, you cannot touch that money until you retire. And that's a problem. However, that money can be reinvested and generate gains, which are not taxed and they're only taxed at distribution. So whenever you receive the pension age, you can get a lump sum in advance plus a monthly check. And how will that be taxed? Because that's technically pension. So there are three ways to think about that. Is that finance income, or is that a pension, or is that a complementary fund distribution? So in case it is pension, then it's taxed on the regular brackets from 23 to 43%. If it's financial income, it should be taxed at 26%. However, they created a particular tax bracket. So any complementary fund distribution is taxed at a maximum rate of 15%, running down to a minimum of 8%. How do you run them down? Whenever you contribute every single year, you get a 0.5% reduction on the future tax break, which means that if you just put whatever money you put for 1 year, whenever this gets distributed, you pay 15% of that on the distribution. Every year you contribute, this is lowered by 0.5%, which means that you contribute 14 years or more, the tax bracket that would be applicable is 8%. So imagine that you have a tax saving now because you will reduce your taxable income. So this is really good. It's a good way to save money. And then you have a more favorable tax bracket in the future, because if you contribute 14 years, you can tax that at 8%, which is nothing compared to all the other tax rate. And of course, if the fund increased, this is non-taxable. Everything is taxed at 8%. So if you put money and that generates other money, you do not pay any tax. So there's no financial income tax. And this is wonderful. And Of course, you also have to consider that that money you will not have access until you retire, or you can have access with the same reason as to withdraw from your TFR funds. And you must also consider that those funds are held by financial intermediary and they charge a fee to administer those. So it's very important to consider the overall convenience of the single operation. And you also have the risk that those funds will be invested poorly. And of course, you have certain degree of choice on how to invest the fund, how aggressive you can be on your pension fund, but you must also consider that. So are you likely to invest your money? Are you confident to do that through that scheme? Are you okay with the fees applicable? And are you okay to get the tax incentives? Do you actually have the benefit? Because sometimes you don't have tax incentives, that it makes little to no sense to invest money in those funds.